Hi, everybody. Thanks for the time. My name is Josh Dotson. I'm the Industry 4.0 leader for Koch, Inc. I can't say Koch Industries anymore. We just recently changed our name. I'm going to take a little bit different tack than the two previous presentations. My guess is that if you're here, you believe that we can optimize our asset performance, right? Does everybody else at all of your companies also believe the same thing? Are they thinking the same way, or do they sometimes think that AI is kind of like voodoo, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about the journey for us and the way that we think about AI and how to use it, right? So just a little quick overview of Koch if you're not familiar with us. So we're made up of 8 operating companies across the globe, 120 to $130 billion in annual revenue. So very large, 130,000 employees. I spent the majority of my time for Koch Ag and Energy, one of the portfolio companies. I actually just took this corporate job like a month ago, so I'm still learning that piece. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we were thinking in Case. So Case is the operating company that I was in, right? We started our transformation journey back in like 2019. Right, we saw technology coming at us, and our thought process was, if we don't do this right, we're just going to end up in chaos. Right? I'm sure everybody has seen that. So I don't know if he's in here or not, but there's a gentleman here from Case who also helped put this together. And what they were thinking about at the time was, what does the fleet of the future look like? What do all the plants of the future look like, right? And so we put this vision together. Up on the right side over there, it talks about the fleet of the future being fully optimized, including capacity, cost per ton, and safety systems, right? And so I really want to focus on what does fully optimized mean. Again, this is how we were thinking about AI, right? What does fully optimized mean? In my layman's terms, right, it's maximizing the difference between the outputs and the inputs. Simple. A fleet-wide perspective, or anything from your raw materials to your human capital, right? Your knowledge, the assets themselves. It all boils down to cash at the end of the day, but when you break it up, those are kind of the main components, right? So when I'm thinking about the asset pieces, right? What does it mean to be fully optimized, excuse me, from an asset health perspective? What do you need to do? Right. Again, in layman's terms, if you're trying to maximize the reliability of your assets, you're trying to understand a lot of things, right? You're trying to minimize the amount of money you're putting into your assets and maximize the throughput. Very, very simple, right? The inputs are the equipment themselves, the man hours it takes to maintain them, the spare parts you need to keep on stock or keep on the shelf to minimize the downtime when you're maintaining them, right? From like a real-time perspective, though, what do you need to know? What do you need to know? You need to know exactly how that thing is operating on a day-to-day basis. You need to know how much life is remaining. You need to know how quick it's degrading. All these things, right? And then you need to take action accordingly. Okay? Does that make sense? So the question, we all intuitively know that. If you're in here, you believe you can do that. Why don't we have perfect asset management? Why don't we? Right? So when you take the problem and you break it down a little bit, there's a few prerequisites to asset management, right? First, you have to have good, solid, complete knowledge of that asset, right? Then you have to generate insights from that knowledge. It doesn't just tell you exactly what's wrong. You have to generate the insights from that knowledge, from that asset, and then you have to take action accordingly, right? Again, we know these things, so why don't we have perfect asset management? In Case, we believe that this fleet of the future that is fully optimized, it may not be ever fully attainable, but we can at least get much, much, much closer utilizing data and technology, right? And so we took a bet. We partnered with Cognite to help us deliver this future, right? And there are some things that we just have to do. We have to radically change the way we are approaching the problems. We have to radically change the way that we're thinking about the data and the architecture. But at the end of the day, what we really need is more people to be thinking this way, to be engaging and empowered to leverage the data, to take that knowledge, turn it into insight, and then take the appropriate action, right? So we made a bet. I'm going to talk a little bit about the mental model that we use to frame up why this bet makes sense for us, right? Has anybody tried to frame up and convince their leaders, hey, this is valuable, this is something we need to do? You were mentioning it, right? It's really, really hard to quantify the value of these types of things unless you have a $3 million per rig, use case to look at, but we don't all have that, right? So this mental model that we use really talks about how do we operate now versus how do we think we can operate in the future, right? So current state, if you're a reliability engineer at a plant, what do you do when there's a problem? You're going to your CMMS system, you're going to your historian, you're going to your equipment files, wherever they're at. You're pulling knowledge, you're probably talking to old Joe, the operator that's been there for 40 years, and you're consuming all this knowledge, right? You're coming up with something, you're pulling in your own experience, and then you're doing something with it, right? How many of us have a degrading workforce or a workforce that's turning over a bunch? And you're seeing a heck of a lot more new guys coming in, right? First off, you've got to train them where to go look. You got to train them who to go talk to. And then they got to figure out how to go use those systems, right? It's not a very sustainable model with the changing workforce, right? What we think, I'm going to click through these a little bit, is that the future looks more like this, where you've got all your data systems pulling data up into a contextualized knowledge graph, right? Kind of like a brain where you can add the knowledge of old Joe, the 40-year operator. You can add the knowledge of all your different various data systems and then build solutions on top of those, right? Whether it's a human-centric solution where it's just somebody that's got easy access to the data, they don't have to go learn all these other things. They just know, I got to go to one place and I can find what I'm looking for, right? You can also build applications on top of those things, whether it's a custom application for a specific use case, kind of like what you guys were talking about, right? You can go build those applications and generate those insights on top of your connected knowledge graph, right? But then now with AI coming in, we can also start building AI applications, AI agents on top of these knowledge graphs, ultimately to achieve those fully optimized outcomes we're looking for, right? So this is the mental model. And I want to, compare and contrast a little bit, right? Why do we think that that's valuable? If you were to try to fully optimize your asset management on the left side here, what would you have to do? Right? Let's take an extreme example here and say, I'm going to go hire an army of pump SMEs and tell them your sole job is to optimize the output of this pump. One pump per person, right? Would we have fully optimized operation of those pumps? See some heads shaking, right? Why? It's because we're humans. We are fallible. We make we make mistakes. We make bad decisions. We got to go to our kids' soccer game. We forget to talk to Joe. We forget the other data source that probably would have helped us and make a better decision, right? So in this world over here on the left, where everything's siloed, even if we had a person for every single pump and every single facility, we would not have optimized asset management. On the right side, if you have just the connected data and you still have that army of pump SMEs, are you going to have fully optimized asset management, pump management? Probably not. You'll be closer, right? You'll make a step change improvement, but you're still not going to be perfect. All right, and so that's where AI comes in this mental model, because when you start building AI on top of the connected data and you give it the relevant context and the ability to start asking questions and making recommendations, it doesn't sleep. It remembers things that you forgot, from a year ago or 2 years ago or however long, right? And so that's, in my mind, what is changing and why we decided to make a bet on this mental model over on the right. So, oops, more boxes here. I'm going to talk a little bit about partnerships, right? So this is the last piece here, and then I'll stop talking. But we realized in case we are comparatively advantaged to run pumps and heat exchangers and plants. We are not comparatively advantaged to keep up with the exponential rate of technology, right? If you think about fully optimized, you're trying to minimize your costs as well as maximize the output, right? We're not going to go hire an army of data scientists and AI experts and those types of things to go build the data pipelines, go build the knowledge graph, go learn everything there is to know about all the new technology that's coming at us, right? And so we are leveraging a partner with Cognite because they've got the comparative advantage in that space, right? I think the other thing that we're starting to realize, and the reason that I'm here, and the reason that Koch holistically comes to these types of things is because we can learn a lot from all of you as well, right? What you have seen in history is the people who try to hoard knowledge and do it all themselves, they're the ones that fail, right? So my challenge to all of you is to share knowledge, generate partnerships, and don't fall behind. That's all I got. Thank you.